We are live. Welcome to the Standout CEO Show, your gateway to building a standout business with your personal brand. And today I want to start off by sharing this quite remarkable statistic that I Google and to do with B2B consultants. And there are 499,861 B2B consultants currently in the United States. And this is counting all the other ones that are in all the rest of the world. This is a big, big number. So the question that I want to ask is, in all of this sea of sameness in the world of consulting, how do you stand out? And what if all the attention that you've been paying to finding your niche and finding your own unique positioning was actually a big waste of your time? And what if your path to becoming a successful B2B consultant was actually not being a CEO? What if what's needed right now is this whole new breed of thought leader that actually stands out in a market of one? Well, these are the questions that are being raised by today's guest on the Standout CEO Show, Peter O'Donoghue, who's calling in on today all the way from Wales, and his unconventional consulting is geared to help B2B consultants work smarter, make more profit, and create predictable revenue. So buckle up, stay tuned. We're going to explore this non-CEO path where you don't need to build a business in order to be a successful consultant. So, O'Donoghue, welcome to the show.
Hey, Brad, thank you very much for that introduction. And Brad, there's so many conversational points in that line. I was going, it's trying to keep track of, well, that's one avenue we could go down. There's another. No. So it's like, I think we're in for a very exciting time ahead. Thank you.
Right. Well, where I want to start is actually, I wish this was a term that we used more over here in North America. I love the term rubbish. That's rubbish. So why, in your mind, this is one of the first things when we talked prior to coming on to the show, you were saying, well, this whole thing of niching down that a lot of people are focused on, it's all a bunch of rubbish. So why, from your framework, do you believe that's true?
Okay, so I guess there's many different ways you can address that, and it comes down to how people are traditionally thinking about their niche, if you like. Now, if you look at specifically B2B consultants, your niche, you're either a generalist, so conventional advice is you're a generalist and you can operate as a generalist, but there are many downsides of it. Focus, you can't attract certain clients, you don't stand out to anyone. And then the other way is niche specific, really niching down. But it's predicated on some very old-fashioned mechanisms of picking a niche. So traditionally it's industry, it's number of employees, it's turnover. And a lot of those conventions are no longer adequate to really get into a subset or a group of organizations or people that you can help. So while I say, look, niching is rubbish, it's not necessarily the convention of really honing in on who you can help, your ideal client profile. It's what is being taught or what people are generally thinking about, what is how you do it via niching, and it's that whole concept of picking a niche. I mean, I could go on forever. I'm going to stop for a break here, just so if you can interject and steer a little. Otherwise, I'll carry on for minutes.
Okay. Well, if the goal is this market of one, like being in a position as a market of one, how do you describe that, and what does that even look like?
Cool. So there are a number of ways of doing that. Again, you alluded to it in your intro. It's about, first of all, what's your business model? A traditional consulting business model had a number of different facets to it. One way you could be, a pay by the hour, sort of pay by the day consultant. And no disrespect to that. I think of those as more, freelancers or contractors rather than consultants. And another way, if you're going to create a business and revenue and high income levels above a certain cap, if you're working day rates, those type of things, is to grow a business. So you come in traditionally one or two partners, you start off as a consulting business, you bring more consultants under you, you charge by conventional methodologies. Basically you're renting out heads for day rates or week rates, and that's one way of doing it. However, there's so much opportunity for you as a B2B consultant now to do something very different. You can earn more money as a B2B consultant with 0 employees as a market, having a position of 1, than adding in a business. If that's what you want to do, it might not be what everyone wants to do, because there's still cachet around building a business and selling it to Nielsen or one of the big consulting companies. However, if that's not what you want to do, you have so much opportunity ahead of you. So how to build a market of 1? Well, firstly, have an opinion, an insight, and that is what is lacking predominantly amongst B2B consultants. Is they're good in knowledge or information, but they're not connecting it to insight. And only you can bring insight, because insight is applying past knowledge that you've learned through books, seminars, courses, through life experience that you've had in consulting companies previously with books and different things. Only you have had that, and it's how you synthesize that and then push that out as to the face of your consulting offer, if you like. So that's one way. It's about how you take that. And for me, I see, Chat GPT is a big thing at the moment, AI, but no one can replicate your insight. And insight is the key word. It's not just being visible. I did try to launch a sort of sub brand a couple of years ago called the Visible Expert, and I actually thought about it, and no, that's not what I want, because it's not about being visible, it's not about being an expert, it's having credible insights. That's the key one. And then the second one is about how you go about targeting, obviously having focus on your ideal client profile, but also looking at the modern ways of identifying. So predominantly the pain or the goal of the organization. And then secondly, intelligently identifying those. So what I mean by that is, you can be a business growth expert in the SaaS vertical. I help SaaS companies do that. Or, where some people then go to is I help SaaS companies who are launching into the US, and they're fine, but they're still quite old-fashioned definitions. Whereas you can leverage such modern approaches like leveraging what we call trigger events. So these are things that are happening in other organizations that would indicate that yesterday they weren't a good company for you to be doing business with, but today they are. But they may not even know that they're right for your consulting offer, but by this trigger event, this inflection point that's happened in their business, that they're a great opportunity for you right now. And that can be really specific. So the example I use a lot is, okay, so you could be the B2B consultant that helps UK manufacturing companies that have bought 2 or more other companies to bring them into the umbrella group within a year. That is specific, and you have if you have unique insight into that, that is so specific. That is your market of 1. And you can find that information, a drop of a hat nowadays with technology. So 1 is the insight you bring, 2 is some of the modern approaches of identification, and thirdly, for me, it's the models that you then apply. You're having a methodology, and I call it, to operationalize the results that you bring into their organization. And there's a lot of stuff there that's kind of embedded into what I said. You have to bring, if you have a model, it's predicated on being able to deliver results. So again, I'll stop there just to make sure you've got time to breathe and dig in.
All right, well, I'll back up a little bit. So I'm hearing one thing that really jumped out at me is this combination of an insight that can be applied trigger event for the target audience, the target companies that you're wanting to be working for. So when you think about that, like when people think about, well, I want to build my authority, I want to build my brand, I want to build my thought leadership, I want to be recognized as the one who knows about this thing. Well, that's all cool, but if what you're suggesting is that yes, and if you apply your thought leadership, like the thing that you want to be known for, to a very specific trigger event, like you're the one who can fix this specific issue, this specific challenge for a particular kind of company, that's where you start becoming singular in the marketplace. And this is the thing that's jumping out, like what they're doing. They're much more of a generalist when they talk about their expertise, whatever it is that you do. And I just, that's really good, like narrowing the focus, which is so different than simply saying, well, I help, marketing agencies grow their business or whatever. It's like that. So, all right.
So the way you look at that as well is it's almost a reverse thinking as well. So a lot of B2B consultants are consultants because they've had 10, 15 years experience in a vertical, or they've worked in a large consulting company that predominantly is based on a use case, digital transformation or something of that nature, and then they would take it into an industry or one or two industries. Whereas, actually, if you're really smart and you want to apply some of the opportunities that the modern technological and business landscape faces, you can create your consulting offer around the things that you can find out about how you can approach clients and the situations they're in, as opposed to being in this box of here's what I've got, here's my knowledge, here's my expertise, who wants it? What I mean by that is, if you can identify companies that have gone through that round of merger and acquisitions, for example, you can then create your offer specifically that speaks to that, as opposed to insular navel gazing, here's my offer, do you want it?
Yeah, well, I also like the aspect of having your own methodology, like your own framework that is, again, unique to yours. And like I'm a big believer in myth busting and challenging conventional wisdom and sort of the old way of doing stuff. And so if you come to the marketplace and you say, well, I help this kind of company solve this specific problem, and here's my framework that I've given a name to for that's solving that problem. So people are going, oh, right, I want to be part of the new solution to this problem that I have. And now I know that probably the only way to do it is with this framework. And if that framework is your framework and you're the only place to get it, if you're that singular consultant and it's like, okay, now you've got this one thing that you're the only one. It's the only place where, and that becomes by itself really attractive. So it's all these three things combined. So I want to go back to the authority piece, sort of. So now that if I've got this mindset where okay, I can be successful all by myself. I don't need to grow this giant agency or this giant consulting firm. I don't need that. I can do this thing that's completely singular. I figured out the type of problem, the type of trigger that I'm going to be going to the marketplace with, and I've got my method. Like I know what my framework is because I've done it successfully with several companies. But now I need to build my authority. I need to actually get people to know that this is the thing that I can do. And like my tool of choice, this is my whole business, is helping people do that by using the medium we're using right now, by using video.
Absolutely.
And by communicating in this way, whether you do it on a video podcast like this, or you become a guest on other people's podcasts, or whether you make your own videos, or whether you start videotaping your clients and getting testimonials. Video is a really great way to put a face, like literally your face, to your brand and have people recognize you. So what do you see working for consultants on this path of them? They're a single business person wanting to build their authority.
So there's many strings to that. And so the first thing is to make sure that you have access to the type of clients that you would like to operate with. So LinkedIn, absolutely. First thing I do with my clients, get them to clear out people they're in school with, recruiters, headhunters, do a clear out and find absolutely the people in your network are the people that could be potential clients or referrers for you. And then start adding them into your network. At the moment, you've got 400 a month people that you can add to your network via the LinkedIn connections. If you do not do that, every month you do not do that, that's an opportunity cost that you have wasted. Because if you then start promoting content, so I'm a big believer, you build your network first. So take that, that example I use a lot. So you now might be adding manufacturing companies in the UK and their managing directors, their finance directors. It's about building your awareness and presence with them and not pitching. And then that could be content, as you absolutely say. So, for example, if that's LinkedIn, it's being consistent. So firstly, identify, if you have number 3 of what we were discussing earlier, which is your operational model, then keep your content confined within your operational model, because that's designed to address problems that the company might have. So therefore, stick to that. Don't be talking about what you had for dinner, or even the conference that you went to. If it's the conference that's about your industry expertise, it's because it's only relevant what's relevant for them, and then be consistent. So a lot of B2B consultants don't like to go on video. So if you have hang-ups around that, start posting content, so text-based content, and that's the gateway drug, if you like. Is build your initial baby steps on that, and then transition to video. I think you really do have to use video, especially the way AI is going. That you cannot replicate you cannot replicate your enthusiasm and the way that you can talk and the way. So, and that is by creating video, going on podcast or video podcast, and of course utilizing services like yours, where someone can just condense that and make that really easy for you. It's not always about the going down the traditional route of being published in academia, and I don't see a lot of point for that anymore for B2B consultants, unless you've got one and you use that over and over again as your proof point. It's getting where your audience are and putting that insight in front of them.
Yeah, you're singing to the choir when you're talking about video. Yeah, I would say that especially for the consulting world, if in fact you go onto LinkedIn and you do start making video, even if you only do like a few here and there, of the very few brave souls who are doing that. Like, there are just so many consultants, and there are so few of them that actually are willing to put themselves in front of the camera and talk regularly. That's, so if you do want to stand out, it's a really, really great place and direction to travel in, because you're one of the only ones. And if you're one of the only ones talking about the only thing that you talk about, that's it. Like, you completely nail it. And
so I've got a model that...
I'm amazed that in this day where everyone has a phone like this, and you literally have your entire, movie production company based like right in this little device, and you're connected to the internet. That's all you need. It's a phone and an internet connection. You can be the most outstanding human on the planet if you choose to be.
So I think there's one reason I think that contributes to a lot of B2B consultants as to why they don't do video. All content, but specifically video, because it is about what do I say and how do I get the message across. Especially if you're striving to be a thought leader and an expert, and it's having this transformational, unique piece of information. So if this next piece helps those people to create, then I would be, I would love that. So I teach my clients a model. If you think of sort of an inverted triangle, split into 3 parts. At the top, you have 3 boxes. And those are talk to known pains of your target market. So if you really have a truly transformational piece of IP or consulting process, you don't go out and start talking about it to the mass market on places like LinkedIn, because they're not in step with you yet. So you start talking about the problems, and then traditionally, then you can, if someone moves into, say, your newsletter or engages with you, or if you're running LinkedIn ads and you can tier, only show an ad to someone if they've seen 50% of this video, which you can do. So someone gets your help, you can create a video, talk about the known problems, the market will say, yes, I've got those, and then you can say, okay, so someone who sees 50% of one of those goes down into the middle layer of the inverted pyramid, which is, you now start talking about problems that they know they have, but they won't admit in public that they know they have. Now you're really getting under their skin. And then the bottom, and now you're like, it's kind of the leading and pacing. So you start pacing, getting in step with them. They get to know, like, and trust you. And now you're beginning to transition to leading a bit, which is showing that you understand problems that are deeply unique to them, that they won't even admit in public that they have. And then the third one is where you bring in, once you have people at that level, and it could be transitioning to a webinar or a longer form piece of content, or a third layer in LinkedIn paid ads via video, which now you introduce your thought leadership. Because if you turn it and flip it and you introduce your thought leadership first, you lose people because they don't get it. They're not in tune with you, but they're also not in tune with the content. It's too big a bridge to cross.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, especially on social media these days, when people are skimming or scanning or whatever they're doing on social media, they don't like, if your content isn't speaking to them in the moment where they are in their mindset, like, if they're on LinkedIn, they're there to network. And so if you hit them with something about, like, well, here's something, like, you have a headache, great. I have, I can help you with that headache, this pain that you're feeling right now in the back of your temple. I've got something for that. And then they go, oh, really? That would be nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if it's not relevant to them, that, like, this whole thing about people do come and say stuff all the time about, like, here's what I do, and here's my thing, and here's amazing, and it's so great, and this is what they're talking about all the time, and they're missing, no one cares about it. And it's sort of like, why does it matter to the person who you're talking to? Cynic always says, start with your why, and for messaging, I think that's completely erroneous. It's like, no, you want to start with, why does it matter to the person you're talking to?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
not your own why. See, like, I don't know how sometimes this gets engagement on these platforms, but people come on and they're talking about their why and their purpose, and they're being vulnerable, and they're telling their story about how they used to sleep on their parents' couch, and that kind of story, and just going, oh my gosh, who cares? Like, why are you wasting my time with this story? And not only that, but you'll see them do it more than once. Like, this story comes up again and again, and it's sort of like, it's their thing. Is like, well, what I do is I tell my story, and that's going to make me personable and relatable. And I just like, no, that's.
I'm chuckling because I have shared some of mine recently that are more.
Well, I mean, it's appropriate at times to
Exactly.
do that. It's always good to share a little bit of yourself. That's fine. But I do see a lot of people doing this, like, this is their main thing that they do. And as a host of a podcast, I get many hits from people saying, I'd like to be on your show. And literally in the letter, they'll tell me their whole story. And I'm just like, good grief. Like, this is not what I'm looking for.
Oh, fantastic. And that's great. If you spend time building your insights, you don't need to focus on your, the why comes later. I find people are more interested in the why when they understand you and your unique application to their environment, i.e. their goals, their pains and their goals. And then they're interested in the why. And controversial, I'm also a big believer that know, like, and trust. While that's beneficial, you can get clients that hate you. If they believe that you are the single most best solution for them, then they will still hire you, whether they like you or not. And I've hired consultants that I didn't like, but I knew they would get the job done.
Yeah, right. If they can get that nail out of the back of your head. That's what you need. Yeah. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about getting to sort of the promised land, and I had a guest on maybe a month or so ago, a guy named Rob Gilbert, and he was talking about this attracting thing, like turning the whole traditional funnel upside down. And the way he described it was as a rocket ship instead of a funnel. So it's like rocket ship shape. And he was saying that this is the metaphor he's using, saying, well, NASA, when they want astronauts to come into the NASA training program, they don't go out and pitch, whatever it is that they pitch. They don't have to do any pitching. What they do is they show astronauts doing cool astronaut stuff. And then every kid growing up all over the world is going, oh, I want to be an astronaut. I want to go to the moon. That looks really super awesome. And so many people are thinking, man, this is for me. And then of course what happens is that as people come in and are trying to get to become an astronaut, they can be really choosy and selective and pick only the very best and the most, whatever candidate that they are wanting to say, yes, you are the chosen one and you get to be an astronaut. And they can be very selective. And I think this applies really well for consultants and the consulting world, because in some ways, you're not going to have a ton of people who you're working with. You have actually a really relatively small number. And so being able to be selective in who's coming in is really healthy. And so in the realm of when you're speaking about your methodology, the framework that you have, this unique thing, this is I just would like your take on, if you could put it in the frame of, we're flying to the moon. Who wants to come with us? How can you do that as a consultant with your thing so that you have more people who have this trigger event, who have this issue, who are knocking on your door now and saying, yes, I want to go with you. I want to solve this problem and be there with you.
So again, many parts, many faceted question. So let me take a step back and say, I'm one of the only people that I know, especially that works with B2B clients, it's still a big advocate of outbound sales. Everyone is inbound. But my consultancy and my background was building outbound teams for tech companies. So there's still a massive value in outbound. And what I mean by that is it's okay, the content, the expert positioning and everything else, but you can still equally go to prospective clients. So if you think of the example that I gave, UK manufacturing companies that have acquired 2 or more companies in the space of a year that have unique challenges. If you can identify that problem, then you get a trigger of when that has happened, and every single one that has happened, you can reach out to them. They might not be aware of the challenges. So we look at, in other consultancies, we talk about, don't make it hard for yourself. Target people that are in problem awareness stage. If you can't leverage something like a trigger event that is, transformational for the business, you don't spend time educating the market and really making it hard for yourself when you say sub 250, 300,000, maybe even more. Go to people that have a problem. But when you have that ability to leverage an inflection point, if you identify an organization, you can now constantly reach out to them, target 3 to 5 key people in their senior boards and say, hey, we know you've acquired 3 UK manufacturing companies in the space of last year, as have 15 of our clients previously. And what we have found is typically companies that do that meet 3 main problems in merging those businesses that ultimately end up with significant loss of market value of the organizations they've acquired. You may or may not have these problems yet. Inference on yet. But now you've almost cold gone to those organizations. Of course they're going to speak to you. You're a market of one. You've cold pitched them in a way, but said, hey, you may not have got to these problems yet, but you probably will. But you might not. But if you do, they're going to have significant impact on those acquisitions that you made. And we understand that because that's our market of one. That's what we do. So that's one element. And then the model that you show them, the problems you talk about, no one else can replicate. So you now have a captive audience. You've gone to people that are unaware, potentially, transitioned them to completely problem aware in the space of a week, and they will never go elsewhere because no one else can do what you've just done. And that is when you own a segment of the marketplace. So for me, that's one of the easiest ways of doing it. And then the second way, if you don't have the leverage or the power of something like an inflection, then it's by, I look at sort of a model. You build your model. An easy example for people to get their head around is Covey's 7 principles. That was the model that he operationalized his thoughts into a framework and then took into organizations and built a couple of $100 million organization, whatever it ended up as. So that's how you do it. But you break it into, for me, I like threes, 3. So i.e. a lot of consultancies, whether it's business improvement, change management, digitalization, will go down to the degree of people, process, technology, or people, process, one other. So then you break that one down into 3 parts, and you can show where your model is going to help them. But now you have a model, so you come in here, you transition to here, it works like this. There's so many different ways of building that model. But it's just the fact that you can demonstrate, here's the challenges, here's the model that we use, here's how we will operationalize it in your business.
Yeah, super clear and irresistible. You're like, oh, sign me up.
Well, not quite. It's just again, and that's the just with the caveat. It doesn't. We work in the real world, and we can all see ads on LinkedIn and Facebook. Sign 30 high-paying clients in the next 21 days. It doesn't work like that in B2B consulting. There are things that you can do. You can do what which I teach is creating a front-end offer, which is typically if you break that main offer into 3, and then 3 you take the sexiest part of each, and that's your front-end offer is the gateway into your bigger offer. But I think it's wrong to say any B2B consultant who knows his clients is going to laugh if someone says, yeah, you do that, and everyone goes, yeah, we want you. It doesn't work that way. You've still got some work to do, but you're on a much better transition to getting those clients than many others.
Yeah, I really believe in the whole front-end offer approach. It's a really great way to literally build trust in you when you're working on a small project together, and people really get to see like, oh, this is the amazing work you can do for us, and now the door is open to continue to do more. Well, we are at the end of our time together. It goes by super fast. We've touched on a whole bunch of things. If there's some additional piece that you would like to add on, what would be that thing? And then tell people how they want to hook up with you. What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, I don't think we've missed any. Giving me an open floor is a dangerous thing, Brad, because we could still be here in another 50 minutes because I'm never short of things to say. So probably from the content side, we'll stop there. If anyone wants to get in contact with me, I know you go live on LinkedIn, so obviously I'm very visible on LinkedIn. I also have a newsletter that goes out on a Friday, just change that around on a Friday, and that's at consultingrevenue.com/newsletter, and then that's the best interface between that and any other information that I put out there. And I also post almost daily on LinkedIn as well. People can see my content there.
All right. Awesome. Well, I will make sure that links to both your LinkedIn profile and your newsletter are in the show notes. And Peter, thanks so much for coming on today. This has been really enlightening.
Brad, I really, really do appreciate it, and thank you very much. And your professionalism in everything that we've done is absolutely spot on. So I'm sure you do an amazing job with your clients as well.
Right. Well, thanks so much. And for people who are listening here at the end, I just want to remind you that if you would like to go and get a hold of all of the content of the Standout CEO Show, the best way to do that is to go to standoutceoshow.com. btbconsultants.com, and all of the audio, all of the video, you can binge to your heart's content, watch and read all the show notes, and of course, to the show. And of course, the best way to join us is to join us live every Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And until the next time, so long.